to the bullpen, but he's back where he thinks he should be, and a lot of other people too.
Facing Luis Castillo to lead off, and the first pitch hits the outside corner at the knees for a called strike 1-2. Castillo, who's had a very good renaissance season after an awful time a year ago. He comes in 6th in the National League in hitting, batting at .311. That just missed away. And Moyer's fastball is not going to get much harder than that. He's going to throw 82, 83, 84. That's about it. Moyer, it's 24th start of the year. And Castillo into foul ground. Ryan Howard runs out of room.
Howie, when we talk about control, a lot of people think low and away to right-handed batters, but Jamie Moyer comes inside a lot more than a lot of people think. He's got a lot of guts to come inside with that 81 mile an hour, 80 mile an hour fastball. But that keeps right-handers from leaning out over the plate.
And so the 1-2 to Castillo down the left field line. Chasing it down is Ibanez. Castillo will get at least 2. And Ibanez plays it back in, and Luis Castillo has a leadoff double.
On the other hand, when you come inside, things like this could happen. You end up hanging what looked like a cutter, and Castillo takes care of it. There's a case of Jamie Moyer just hitting the mid and Castillo getting the bat head out in front. And the Mets have a leadoff double here in the first inning.
When you throw an 82, 83, you've got to be just right.
You got that right.
So now Fernando Tatis, 267 hitter, and the veteran takes upstairs. Fernando Tatis was a revelation to the Mets last year as a role player, and this year with all the injuries, Tim, he's found himself playing at times for long stretches. Pulls it back, and the count 2-0.
Was filling in at third base when David Wright went down on August 15th, hit in the head by a Matt Cain 0-2 fastball at Citi Field. But Tatis, a very valuable man, starting in the left today.
And the 2-0 lifted the other way, and that's going to slice out of play. And so Moyer now behind 2 balls and 1 strike. And when Fernando Tatis was playing every day for David Wright, he actually got into his best groove offensively of the year. The guy who last year delivered so many big hits for New York, but this year has struggled very often to find that big hit, particularly with 2 out. Here, of course, he's batting with a runner in scoring position and nobody out. And Moyer's 2-1. Line the other way. Worth won't get it. Nice bare hand pickup, and that'll hold Castillo at third. Tatis going to second as the throw sailed over Ryan Howard. So Tatis takes second base, but that's nice play in right field by the bare hand of Jason Worth.
Well, it's a good play and bad play. That's kind of a tale of 2 plays right here within one. Watch the bare hand play on the little hop back to where Worth was coming from. And now he overthrows the cutoff man. Had he not done that, Howard has a possible play on Tatis at second base, but with nobody out, Razor shines holding up Luis Castillo. But that was a good play with the bare hand and a bad throw by Worth.
Now David Wright with runners in scoring position. Lines 1 the other way. So 0-1 to David Wright. And Tim, the power drop off for Wright is startling this year.
Yeah, it is. From 33 home runs a year ago to 8 home runs today.
That's playing a tough ballpark to hit home runs. The 0-1 on the way, and he lines it to right center. The Mets take the lead as Castillo scores. Tatis right behind him. Wright goes to second, and the Mets have a 2-0 lead. So 3 straight hits against Jamie Moyer. And David Wright now with 62 runs batted in.
But he had double and then the single and overthrow of the cutoff man, and now David Wright, who leads the majors in batting average against left-handed pitching. And once again, Jason Worth, strong but too high. So for the second consecutive hitter, Jason Worth misses the cutoff man, and the Mets, who are not a good base running team, alertly take second.
Carlos Beltran takes a strike on the outside corner. Beltran was 4th in the National League in hitting when he went on the disabled list on the 22nd of June. This is his third game since returning. And Moyer missed inside. 1 ball and 1 strike. Carlos Beltran, for a while, Tim, thought he was going to need something called microfracture surgery. Brian Johns of the San Diego Padres had that, and there's a long recovery period from that. Right now he appears to be out of the woods.
Jerry Manuel telling us before the game that that it was important for Beltran to come back this year. A lot of people would say, well, why is it important? He's on a long-term contract. It's pretty understandable, really. I mean, you don't want to lay out till the end of the year and then come back in the spring. Jerry's saying that if they have to judge him in the spring, sometimes that lasts all the way into the season.
High and deep down the left field line, but hooking out of play. Now you look back at Beltran against the Baltimore Orioles. This is in mid-June, and you can see the way he was running there. And then as he hit the bag at first base, he really felt it. It's a deep bone bruise in his right knee. But here he makes a nice play in his first game back against the Florida Marlins. And he's trying to get right in from second base with nobody out and 2 runs already in. And Jamie Moyer now waiting for Carlos Beltran. And Beltran does this as often as any hitter in the major leagues, Tim. He'll ask the home plate umpire for time as late as possible. And that will occasionally rankle a pitcher. Now Moyer and Ruiz having trouble getting together on the sides.
Yeah, you could see Ruiz going back to the, obviously a switch of a guy like David Wright on at second base. Too much is made of stuff like that, though. Yeah, I mean, major league players have a tough enough time just getting their own signals instead of relaying the signals to the hitters. Entirely too much is made of that whole process.
And Beltran drives it deep to left center. This ball may go, and it's 4-0 New York. So Jamie Moyer has faced 4 hitters, and they have all come around to score. And Beltran has his first home run since June the 9th, which was also against the Phillies back in New York, and that was against Jay Happ. So 4-0 Mets before Jamie Moyer has retired a batter.
Remember, before this pitch, Carlos Ruiz went out to talk to Jamie Moyer. And I'll tell you, a lot of people don't put a lot of credence on that, Howie, but I think a lot has to do with rhythm, cadence, the way a pitcher and a catcher work.
Little squib by Francoeur, and that's 5 straight hits. Moyer can't pick it up cleanly, but Francoeur would have been safe at first anyway, and so that's 5 straight hits against Jamie Moyer. Rich Doobie's going to have to come out and visit with Moyer.
5 straight hits, 4 straight runs. And Jamie Moyer, even had he come up with that ball, I don't think has a play at first base.
You know, talking about Ruiz and Moyer, Tim, so often you hear about a pitcher liking a catcher because he calls a good game. Is that more about the tempo and the fact that he's on the same page with him as much as it is the specific pitch selection?
I think you just said it in the question. Yes, it's as much about the cadence, the rhythm, as it is about pitch selection. And it's the way you put fingers down, too. I mean, who is to know what the right pitch to call for is? I mean, you know, the execution of the pitch is up to the pitcher. You put them down with conviction, though, and more often than not, you're going to have the best results.
Well, now Omir Santos, the Mets rookie catcher, takes a fastball upstairs.
On the other hand, if you put down tentative fingers, you get tentative pitches, and that's a fact.
How do you put down a tentative finger?
Well, by going, is this the right pitch to call for? Maybe, maybe not.
Santos fouls it off. It's 1-1.
It's a way to put down tentative fingers, believe me.
So you'll second guess yourself even before that number 1 is down there. You're showing him half a finger, and then
I don't know if you second guess yourself, but it's tentative going down there. You're not really sure, and if you're not sure, how do you think the pitch that the pitcher throws is going to be? It's going to be unsure also. But that is a very, very important part of the relationship between pitchers and catchers.
Santos waves at a pitch out away. The changeup by Moyer, and it's 2-2.
Probably the best pitch Warriors thrown all here in the first inning. It has been a rocky first for the Philly left-hander.
He's had his first inning problems before, and this could be too. Utley got Francoeur and then throws on for the double play. So nice play by Chase Utley, and finally Jamie Moyer can go back to working from the windup.
And Francoeur really can't stop and get caught in a rundown, and actually goes out of the baseline. I think Utley tagged him anyway, and Moyer gets his 2 outs.
So now Daniel Murphy, the first baseman, who has faced Moyer once before, 1 at bat, and he took him deep. And that missed inside and low. Daniel Murphy's been learning to play first base on the job at the major league level this year. Waves and a changeup, and it's 1-1. Murphy started the year, Tim, as a left fielder, and that didn't go well. So they finally got him out of there after about 6 weeks after the injury to Carlos Delgado, and he's been improving steadily at first base. 2-1.
Yeah, Daniel, I guess in microcosm, a problem individually similar to the problem collectively with the Mets this year. This stint in the left was horrible.
Chase Utley waits on it, and that retires the side. But the first 5 Mets against Moyer had hits, including Carlos Beltran's first home run since June. And the Mets have a big lead early on. Outside the bun, and there is nothing surprising about this group because that is the everyday lineup for Charlie Manuel, and Ryan Howard continues to drive in runs, and he's getting hot at the time of year that he usually heats up. Here's our sprint look at Mike Pelfrey, and in some ways, Tim, the antithesis of Jamie Moyer. This guy throws a hard, heavy sinker.
And can come inside to left-handed batters. Not necessarily to Jimmy Rollins, but you've got Ibanez, Howard, and Utley that you have to pitch inside. And Pelfrey has been exceptional versus the Phillies. However, he is skittish from the stretch. 3 balks in 1 game back in May against the Giants.
And now the 0-1 taken low. That was our sprint pitcher profile of Mike Pelfrey. These are substandard numbers for Jimmy Rollins. And let's take it outside and high. 2 balls and a strike. Pelfrey will throw that fastball into the mid-90s. The secondary pitches for Pelfrey are a work in progress. Rollins hits it a long way to center. Beltran with room, and there's 1 out. And that'll bring up another of those catalyst types, Shane Victorino.
What a night he had last night. A 4-2 Phillies win. 3 doubles, on base 5 times. As the Phillies extended their lead over Florida. Florida lost to Washington last night, and the Phillies won. They are 6 out in the National League East.
Victorino hitting at .301. And Pelfrey gets the first one over. Victorino, an all-star this year, and he has great speed. Tied for the major league lead in triples. And the count 1-1.
Half of the National League representatives in this game today. David Wright of the Mets in the All-Star game, of course. Then Victorino, Chase Utley, and Raul Ibanez for the Phillies.
Would have been another one if Beltran was healthy.
That's right.
He was voted onto the team.
That's right.
2-1 pitch. Even this is a tough play. And they get him by barely a step. So 2 men out. That's just a window of the speed of Shane Victorino. And now Chase Utley, one of those 30 home run men that the Phillies have. Six of those 30 home runs have come against the Mets. One thing about Utley, he'll stand up close to the plate. He gets hit more than anyone in the major leagues. Pelfrey ahead 0-1. Mets will overshift the infield, not only against Utley, but probably against the guy on deck too, Ryan Howard. 1-1 on Chase Utley. And Howard hoping for a chance here in the first inning. Pelfrey spots the fastball, and he's ahead of ball and 2 strikes.
Hitters stand on top of the plate. They have to be quick enough to handle that inside fastball. We talked about Pelfrey, how he comes inside to the left-handers. I would imagine that'll be the pitch here. Nope, going away.
So 2-2. Pelfrey's making his 28th start. He missed 1 start earlier in the year with some forearm stiffness. And Utley, who gets hit so much, makes sure to bring some extra protection up there. And generally, he needs it. That ball just missed the inside corner. Pelfrey will generally keep it in the yard, and has taken advantage also of the spacious dimensions of Citi Field, as those numbers may indicate. .95-mile-an-hour fastball there. And it's still a full count to Chase Utley. Pelfrey became a dad for the first time recently, about a month or so ago. He's facing his namesake, his child's namesake. His son's name is Chase. And the payoff pitch to Utley swung on and missed. And so Pelfrey retires the side in order in the first inning. So 4-0 New York as Pelfrey starts strongly. Presented by Budweiser is sponsored by Sprint. Get more done with Nextel Direct Connect only from the Now Network. By Taco Bell, think outside the bun. And by X-Men Origins, Wolverine on Blu-ray and DVD Tuesday. 4-run first inning for the Mets, so Wilson Valdez, the number 8 hitter, leads off the second inning. And he's ahead in the count, 2 balls and no strikes. Just to give you an example of how hurt the Mets have been at shortstop in particular, Valdez, pretty good example of that, as he takes the pitch to go 2-1. Jose Reyes, the starter, was injured back in May. Alex Cora, the backup, wound up ripping ligaments in both thumbs. Then came Ramon Martinez. He got hurt, so the Mets picked up Valdez from Cleveland. And Valdez denied a hit on a nice sliding catch by Jason Worth in right field for the first out.
Positioning in the outfield more important than positioning in the infield because you have more room to cover. Worth was in. That made the play possible.
And so Mike Pelfrey, who has 5 hits this year and 46 at-bats. Pelfrey out of Wichita State. First round pick of the Mets 4 years ago. And then he fouls it back to count even 1-1.
I was thinking about this coming to the ballpark, and I think we talked about it a couple of weeks when the Mets were playing in Chicago, when Fox did that Cubs-Mets game. And, you know, not being mean or anything like that, but I mean, this year has proven that the last 2 years that the Mets have, when they were known collectively as choke artists, weren't that bad at all. Sometimes choking's not the worst thing.
Pelfrey hits the curveball down to third, and Feliz throws him out, 2 men away.
I mean, there is no way that this can't be characterized as one of the worst seasons that a major league team has had in the last 50 years. For what was expected of this team and how through injuries, through poor play, through poor development from the minor leagues. That's of course 2 years ago, 2007. They had a 7-game lead over the Phillies with 17 left. Last year on September 12th, they were up by 3 games. And everybody in New York saying, well, they choked, they choked, they choked. This year, they have not been in a position to choke.
And the 1-0 to Castillo in for a strike. So now the question, of course, is what happens next?
That's or next year for Jerry Manuel and Omar Minaya and the ownership group of the Mets.
2-1. One thing that I think they recognized, Tim, is the need to build with a little more grit and a little more get the uniform dirty type of persona than they've had over the last few years. Castillo takes the fastball, and it's 2-2. And I think they feel that they were certainly top heavy as far as how they projected from a power standpoint, but that they needed a little more the type of player that Shane Victorino is. Castillo takes it. The count's full. Of course, going out and getting that type of player isn't the easiest thing in the world necessarily.
No, you don't trade for guys like that. Those guys like that, if they're gritty enough and talented enough, they're not going to be tradable commodities.
Hit hard by Castillo, but Victorino puts it away. And Moyer is settling down, has retired 5 in a row. Reach for the perfect combination of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, the great American lager. Ryan Howard to lead off the bottom of the second, with the Phillies trailing the Mets 4-0. Howard having MVP type numbers build in his favor again. And Pelfrey misses high. 1 ball, no strikes. You would certainly have to consider Howard among the strong contenders for an award that I think most people feel is going to wind up going to Albert Pujols of the St. Louis Cardinals. And again, with the infield overshifted, the count 1-1.
How about Albert Pujols last night? A rare night for Pujols. The Cardinals lost 1-0 to Jair Jurgens and the Atlanta Braves. Pujols 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts and 2 errors in the field. Very unlike Albert Pujols.
Take his temperature.
Yeah,
something's wrong.
Yeah, he is almost 5 times out of the week he's going to have good games, at least.
2-1 to Howard, and that's fouled away. Raul Ibanez waiting on deck. Howard, Ibanez, and then Worth, all with 30 or more home runs. Next homer the Phillies hit will be their 200th. Pelfrey missed down and in.
Phillies have never had 2 guys with 40 home runs on their roster. Howard will probably get there. He's got 38, and Jason Worth with 33 and a chance.
And Howard fouls it back. You know what I found surprising is that Howard has 4 straight seasons of 30 homers, 100 RBIs. He's the second Philly ever to have done it, and the other one was not Mike Schmidt.
Chuck Klein?
Yeah, Chuck Klein.
Yeah,
I'd have bet the ranch on Schmidt.
Yeah, I would have too.
Great third baseman.
The best ever, in my opinion. A lot of people would say Brooks Robinson. I don't think so. I mean, Schmidt had to play deeply on the artificial surface. 9 Gold Gloves. Great base runner. Power hitter. Hit for an average. What's left?
Howard fouls it back. Could he cook?
I don't think so. I'll go on a limb and say no.
Well, if he could, Ryan Howard would probably like to stop by. And would you believe that Ryan Howard's mother actually calls him the runt of the family because he's got 2 brothers who are bigger than he is? Hits that one hard. Ryan Howard, part of this rather exclusive group. First team since the 2006 White Sox with 4 players with 30 or more homers, and the 12th team in baseball history to do it. Huntley, Howard, Ibanez, and Worth. Now Ibanez is the new guy, and he's starting to come around again after being on the DL with a groin injury. Takes the breaking ball, 1-0. But Tim, now this is where Pelfrey becomes a different pitcher, when he's got to work out of the stretch. And it's been characterized as akin to a golfer who gets the yips. That's the word Pelfrey used.
You and I were kidding about it in the truck about 4 hours ago, saying maybe Mike ought to use a taller putter or a longer putter. But I mean, you know, you can alleviate that with him right now. You've got a 4-run lead, and to me, play Daniel Murphy behind Ryan Howard at first base. That way you eliminate any pickoff move over there anyway. Here, what happens? But Howard is running, and he went for the decoy.
And so, because there was so much hang time, Tatis won't be able to double him up.
Or you talk about following through with the decoy. Wilson Alvarez, the shortstop. Now see, Ryan Howard does not look back. He thinks there's a play on him. He went for the decoy with Alvarez at second base, who completed it. It's almost like a phantom play. And if the runner doesn't look back in time, you have to depend on the shortstop and they never tell you the truth. Wilson Valdez, a good decoy, but it didn't work.
So with one out, that'll bring up Jason Worth, a .270 hitter with 33 home runs and 84 RBIs. 1-0. Jason Worth, part of a long line of major leaguers. His grandfather was Dick Schofield, former big league shortstop for the Pittsburgh Pirates and others. They called him Ducky. And the 1-0 in for a called strike on the outside edge. And then Ducky Schofield's son, Dick Schofield Jr., played for the Angels and the Mets, among other teams. In fact, Worth's dad played for the Yankees briefly about 30 years ago, Dennis Worth. So now Pelfrey considering the possibility of Howard running.
And Dick Schofield's daughter, Kim, is the mother of Jason Worth, and she was an Olympic sprinter.
So not surprising that Jason's made it to the big leagues. And he hits that one the other way. Jeff Francoeur, plenty of time and space for the second out. Well, that'll bring up Pedro Feliz, the third baseman. Feliz, a .270 hitter with 10 home runs. And we've talked so much about the number of 30 home run hitters the Phillies have, the fact that they've hit 199 home runs. Nearly half of their runs this year have been scored via the home run. And since the All-Star break, it's actually been more than half. Pelfrey deals outside, 1-0.
Yeah, no team gets more value out of the home run ball than the Philadelphia Phillies.
And this is a great home run hitter's park, too.
Yep.
One and one. Lee's the former San Francisco Giant. And this park plays small, particularly to left field. Low and away with a slider.
Plays beautifully too, doesn't it? With the backdrop of the city in the background. The 30th consecutive sellout this afternoon. Phillies have had 61 sellouts now at this ballpark this year.
And Pelfrey misses upstairs, 3-1. This park opened in 2004. The Phillies, and you of course played at cavernous Veterans Stadium, a big round building which seated in the high 60,000s. And this ball's hit well. Tatis back, and that cuts the lead in half. The Phillies have hit their 200th home run of this year. Pedro Feliz with his 11th. And it's a 4-2 New York lead. But if Mike Pelfrey, who throws an effective sinker, starts throwing fly balls in this ballpark, he's asking for trouble.
Well, you could tell why that last pitch was a fly ball. That ball was about letter high to Pedro Feliz. Ooh, yummy. Yummy, says Feliz. You hear that expression a lot, that no lead is safe, and certainly in this park, that's the case.
Carlos Ruiz shoots the gap, and he's going to have an extra base hit. Beltran plays it in, and Ruiz has a double. Leads shrink in a hurry in this place, and again, the home run ball, the big reason why for this Phillies team.
In our opening, you used the word bludgeon, and what a descriptive word that was and is when you talk about the Philadelphia Phillies, because they can do that to the opposition with regularity.
And David Wright just trying to pick up Mike Pelfrey here. And now, by failing to get the number 8 hitter Ruiz, Pelfrey's going to have to get through this inning by going after the pitcher Jamie Moyer, hoping to get him, but then you've got Jimmy Rollins to lead off the next inning. 129 career hitter Jamie Moyer. Fastball right there. Big day tomorrow for Fox with the NFL opening up this weekend. 0-2 to Moyer.
Kurt with all his guys. Kurt Menefee there with Terry. Pre-game show starting at noon Eastern tomorrow. Jimmy Johnson, Howie, Michael Strahan. What a great show that is.
1-2 now to Jamie Moyer. Belfry looking intently at Ruiz at second. And he catches Moyer looking, and that retires the side. So the Phillies slice the lead in half as Pedro Feliz takes Mike Pelfrey deep. It's 4-2. We'll be back to Philadelphia right after. We start the third inning. The Mets 4, the Phillies 2. Tatis singled and scored his first time. He goes after Moyer's first pitch. And that's playable for Pedro Feliz. 1 pitch, 1 out. Well, the Mets had their first 5 hitters reach, including Beltran's 2-run homer, on base hits to start this game. Tim, it's been over 30 years since they did that.
Wow.
Want to hear some names from the past? Joel Youngblood, Frank Tavares, Lee Mazzilli, Richie Hebner, teammate of yours in Philadelphia, and John Stearns.
Did it against the Pittsburgh Pirates starter Jim Rooker, who you may remember had a big start against the Baltimore Orioles in the World Series in 1979. That was the pivotal game 5 with Pittsburgh down 3-1. And Rooker started, won that game. The Pirates went back to Baltimore and won games 6 and 7, coming from behind to beat the Orioles and become world champions. The Lumber Company, what could they hit? They could pitch too. They're pitching very underrated.
And an outstanding reliever in Kent Tekulve. His right hits one on 1 hop the other way. And Utley throws him out for the second out. And I don't want to shortchange Steve Henderson, because the Mets actually had 6 straight hits to start that game in June of '79, and Henderson was the 6th. Beltran had the most prolific of the 5 straight hits for the Mets in the first inning. Jamie Moyer settling in. That's 7 in a row now for him. And the curveball lands in the glove of Feliz. So the Mets go in order. Top of the Phillies order coming up next. Signing up to volunteer at MLBGoBeyond.com. Jimmy Rollins takes ball 1 from Mike Pelfrey as we start the Phillies third. Rollins, Victorino, and Utley. Top of the Phillies order against Mike Pelfrey. 2-0. And it's taken right down the middle by Jimmy Rollins. Rollins suffered through an 0 for 28 slump earlier this year. Got going against the Mets here early in July. Pelfrey misses down and in. It's 3-1.
Yeah, Jimmy's hit about 285 since that 0 for 28 slump.
Daniel Murphy easily beats Rollins for the first out. Now for a DirecTV game break, we take you to Yankee Stadium. Derek Jeter with a single to center off of Brian Mattis, extending his record for hits by a Yankee. Then in the top of the second, bases loaded, 1 out. Brian Roberts, a grand slam. That made it 6-1 Orioles, and a nice play by Nolan Reinhold off the foul ball by Robinson Cano. 6-1 Orioles at that point. They won the game 7-3. Shane Victorino fouls the first pitch off.
That grand slam home run by Brian Roberts. The Yankees at Yankee Stadium. That ballpark has yielded the most home runs. Here at Citizens Bank Ballpark, it's 3rd in the major leagues. But it's Yankee Stadium and then the Rangers Ballpark at Arlington and then Citizens Bank Ballpark, and that's why a 2-run lead is nothing here. Not with this lineup.
The thing about Yankee Stadium was shocking because it's built to the exact same specifications as the one across the street was. Victorino shoots it the other way. Tough play for Tatis, but he gets there and snow cones it for the second out. Ball almost found its way out of his glove.
Yeah, well, the old Yankees Stadium had small dimensions down the right field line. 296 originally. Then only 354 into the gap in right center. Left-handed hitters through the years should have had to pay to get in that ballpark to hit. You kidding me?
Were you saying that the day you won a World Series game there with a home run? You offering up any money to get in the next day?
About 5. Listen, I would have.
Here's Utley with the infield overshifted again, and Pelfrey gets the first one over. Now, the Phillies had the epic collapse of a 6.5 game lead being frittered away in 1964 with 12 games remaining. And Tim's Cardinals took advantage of that. Pelfrey misses down and in 1-1 and wound up beating the Yankees in the World Series.
Won the pennant on the last day of the season. Had we lost that game, it would have been the only three-way tie in the history of baseball. Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and the Cardinals. And the Phillies were the odd team out. The Cardinals would have had to play in Cincinnati.
Utley hits one towards Cincinnati, and it's 4-3. Well, Mike Pelfrey's getting a primer in what the Phillies are all about, particularly in this ballpark. You make a mistake, and it's going to go. He'd only given up 12 home runs coming into this game, and the Phillies already have 2, and the Mets now lead at 4-3.
Well, that's a beautiful swing right there. Hitting instructors talking about how the bat is an extension of a hitter's arms. Well, you could see it right there. That hit right down on the bat, or on the ball hitting the bat.
So just like that, a one-run game. Pelfrey got a curveball over to start off Ryan Howard. And the fastball catches the inside edge.
This is a sweet swing right here. Power and contact. Man.
Oh, and 2 to Howard. And he missed upstairs.
The thing about Utley's swing is he doesn't have a lot of moving parts. Even Ryan Howard's swing, because Ryan is such a big man, there's a lot of moving parts. He has to have everything right, and he can overpower balls.
Against the shift, and somebody's going to have to hustle to hold Howard at first, and Tatis does.
You know, to Ryan Howard's credit, he was thinking double all the way. I mean, he really busted it out of the box. Little trickler down into the third base position. He ran hard out of the box, thinking double, but Tatis got to the ball quickly, and Ryan stops at first.
So now Raul Ibanez, who's flied to left his first time up. Pelfrey missed inside. Raul Ibanez, after coming off the disabled list in July after a groin injury, had just 1 homer in 34 games, but he's starting to heat up again. Pelfrey gets it over 1-1. He's now hit 3 homers in his last 5 games. And he hits this one to deep right field. Francoeur at the wall, and the Phillies lead. Their 3rd home run of the game, and for the first time this afternoon, Philadelphia is in front 5-4. That expression you just saw on Mike Pelfrey's face, he was watching the left field scoreboard, and this is what he saw.
That ball really gets in on Ibanez. A good pitch by Pelfrey, but pitching in this ballpark changes your whole concept of pitching. You just can't come inside as much as you can at a park like Citi Field. This ball actually gets inside. It's off the plate inside. talked about the great swing of Utley, and certainly it was that. But you can even get jammed in this ballpark and still get it out.
Some strength and some favorable dimensions.
Here is Utley's home run, the solo shot, the second home run of the game. Compact and pure. And yet Ibanez on a good pitch from Peltry inside. And yet he still gets it out of the ballpark. The third Philly home run of the ballgame.
Hit hard to right, who stays with it. And that retires the side, and the Phillies did their damage after 2 are out. Well, they're playing according to form. Since the All-Star break, more than half of their runs have come via the home run. Today, they all have. And as they head to the fourth, the Phillies on top for the first time. See their team in front for the first time this afternoon. Jeff Francoeur had the 5th of those 5 straight hits off of Moyer in the first inning, and he's the last base runner the Mets have had. Moyer has settled down to retire 8 in a row. Little looper for Howard. 9 straight. And tomorrow the season begins with a Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader. First, Tony Romo leads the Cowboys into Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. The Eagles square off against the Panthers, or the Vikings battle the Browns. Then the Redskins face the Giants in a showdown between NFC East rivals. Coverage begins tomorrow with America's #1 pregame show at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Check local listings for the game and start time in your area. Little dribbler back to the mound by Santos, and Jamie Moyer dominating the Mets now. 10 straight retired after the first 5 all hit safely.
You know, Howie, we talked about cadence and rhythm between a pitcher and a catcher. Before the home run was hit by Beltran, Ruiz goes out to talk to Jamie Moyer, and you notice since then how the cadence and the rhythm has been determined by Jamie Moyer, not the batter. In the first inning, the Mets were determining what Moyer threw, but since then Moyer's back into his rhythm, not theirs.
Daniel Murphy, the batter, 0-1. Will that be discussed sometimes on the bench right after that first inning to the point where it can be rectified quickly?
You try not to discuss things like that. Things like that should be normal. You know, and there's some things that you don't need to discuss, because if you discuss them, that in itself interferes with the rhythm. It's that silent communication between a pitcher and a catcher, again, very important.
It'll pop up by Murphy. And Rollins puts it away. 11 straight retired by Moyer. The Phillies have the lead. Mets scored 4 runs before Mike Pelfrey threw a pitch. Now it's 5-4 Phillies, and Pedro Feliz, who got the Phillies on the board with a 2-run homer with 2 out in the second inning, takes ball 1. Bottom third of the Phillies order here. Slider away, and it's 2-0. And that pitch is one that Pelfrey has not been able to consistently command this year. Got the outside corner there with a fastball. So 2-1 with Ruiz and Moyer to follow. Long throw for right, and he got him. So 1 out. Here's today's Taco Bell bringing the heat pitching comparison. And that's a wide comparison, isn't it?
It really is. The volcano taco with Jamie, more of a microwave taco.
Well, he probably pulled it out of there a little bit too early in the first inning.
Maybe a 310 on your oven or something like that.
Well, now he's hoping that his bats are fully cooked. He's in the on-deck circle. Carlos Ruiz takes the sinker, and it's 1 ball, no strikes. That double Ruiz hit in the second was only his second hit in 30 at-bats against the Mets this year. Remember, these teams play 18 times as division rivals, but the rivalry has really been tempered by the difference in where they are in the standings.
Yeah, I think you can almost feel Philly fans wishing the Mets were a better team.
Down the right field line, but slicing out of play. I'm sure you're right. You know, there are a lot of people who bought these tickets early in the season for this weekend, thinking this might mean everything.
Yeah.
And it's certainly anticlimactic, and Jerry Manuel has seen player after player after player go down, and others just not perform well. It's more than just the injuries that have upended the Mets this season.
Absolutely.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Time called by Ruiz. Phillies have a couple of catchers behind Carlos Ruiz, Paul Bacco, Paul Hoover. And full count now. But Ruiz, their everyday guy, missed some time early in this season. The disabled list with an oblique strain. And that's down and away for ball 4. First walk allowed by Pelfrey. Fox Saturday Baseball, presented by Budweiser, is sponsored by Bank of America. Show the world it's only love. Get MLB banking from Bank of America by Zantac. Heartburn, attack it. And by Chevy. And now Moyer squares to bunt and draws the attention of the corner infielders as Wright and Murphy were charging. Brett Favre will unretire from that jersey any minute now and put on a purple one. Got a lot of work to do to be ready by tomorrow.
Yes, he does.
Nice bunt by Moyer. Castillo, the second baseman, covers, so 1-4 on the sacrifice. Nicely done by the 46-year-old Jamie Moyer. So he was heating up his bunting bat. And that worked out beautifully, and now Rollins will try to deliver a run. Rollins is the guy who really ignited this rivalry between the Mets and the Phillies after the Mets won the National League East easily in 2006. Rollins, as you may recall, said over that following winter that we, the Phillies, are the team to beat. And of course, everybody in New York responded very dispassionately to that. Tongue planted firmly in cheek as Rollins takes a strike. And boy, that really heated things up, not only between the fans but between the players a bit too, and the dialogue still has some juice to it.
Yeah, I mean, it was an innocent remark, and after all, what is Jimmy Rollins supposed to say? We're not the team to beat in the National League East.
He may have driven in a run. Here comes Ruiz around third, and he'll score without a throw. So Rollins makes it 6-4 Philadelphia with his 64th run batted in.
Mike Pelfrey staked to a 4-run lead in the bottom of the first inning. Has now seen the Phillies score 6 unanswered runs. And Rollins obviously a threat to run. The Phillies have stolen and been successful 85% of the time this year.
Rollins started, then stopped, and now somebody will bring him his mitt.
I think what that did was that messed up Victorino's swing by that starting and stopping.
Phillies extend their lead as we head to the 5th. first hitter was retired. And since then, Jamie Moyer has gotten 11 in a row. So here's Valdez. And the Mets shortstop takes outside for ball 1. Valdez and then Mike Pelfrey, who's on deck to hit for himself, followed by Luis Castillo here in the 5th inning. 1-1 to Wilson Valdez. Was picked up from the Cleveland Indians in an emergency deal in late May after all those shortstops went down. Mets still hold out the slimmest of hopes that Jose Reyes might play the last week or so of this season. Moyer spots it on the inside corner. Fastball. And the count 1-2. Reyes is certainly hoping to avoid surgery to clean out some scar tissue behind his hamstring. 2-2 now to Valdez. Well, the Mets have had their 4 core players healthy, and it's been a very, very small sample. That's only been 25 games when they've had Wright and Reyes and Beltran and Delgado. They've won 15 of the 25, so you're playing 600 ball there, but what kind of sample is that? Is it representative? A little dribbler. Moyer off the mound quickly and takes the underhand route to first.
Howie, I think what is representative is a fake break sometimes backfires, because a fake break like that, you say, well, you've got a left-handed hitter up. This is the play that ended the 4th inning. How can a left-handed hitter see the runner at first base? You can't. But what you do is you go off what comes out of the dugout. If a guy in the dugout says, there he goes, it makes you perhaps hasten your swing. And I think that's what Victorino did, and that's why the fake break by Jimmy Rollins backfired at first base. It's not like a fake break from second base would backfire, because either a right-hander or a left-hander could see the runner. But it's an important play. Sometimes it's better to be quiet on the bases instead of having that fake break.
0-1 to Pelfrey. 1-1. What about the mindset of a 2-hole hitter like Victorino playing in this lineup, knowing that Rollins has a good chance to steal that base, and now maybe Victorino's got an RBI chance, or the guys behind him have a chance, even though there are 2 out? Does that enter into it too?
I think it did for Ted Sizemore when Lou Brock was running in front of him, but I don't think it does with Shane Victorino.
So 1-2 to Pelfrey. Feliz cuts it off. 2 away. And on goes Jamie Moyer. Let's take a look at the in-game box score for the New York Mets, brought to you by Hyundai. Introducing the all-new 306 horsepower rear-wheel drive Hyundai Genesis Coupe. And the in-game box for the Mets is top-heavy. See those first 5 hitters all with hits. They did it in succession to start the game, and they haven't had a base runner since.
Yeah, Junior Gilliam, when Maury Wills was running in front of him. But nobody ever talked about the hitter hitting behind Ricky Henderson, ever, because nobody had to. I mean, Ricky was a base runner that ran with probably more reckless abandon than Brock or Wills. Kind of an interesting comparison. But Ricky really nobody ever talked about who hit behind Ricky Henderson, because he had so many guys hit behind him because he played with so many different teams. But with Brock, there was Sizemore. With the Dodgers, there was Gilliam hitting behind Wills.
2-1. And of course, with Ricky Henderson, sure, he's stolen more bases than anyone in the history of Major League Baseball, but he was such a prolific base stealer and attempted base stealer. He's thrown out more than anybody in the world,
right.
too.
Yeah. Ricky did such a great job at the Hall of Fame induction about a month ago, a little more than a month ago.
People were wondering what to expect, too.
Yeah, that's right.
How Ricky-laden would Ricky's speech be, and how many times the word Ricky would pop up.
Yeah.
Castillo pops up. This is all about Jason Worth, and that retires the side, and Jamie Moyer is now retired 14 in a row. Some big boys coming up for the Phillies in the 5th. Saturday Baseball is presented by Budweiser. Reach for the perfect combination of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, the great American lager. Well, Mike Pelfrey had a 4-0 lead, and the Phillies continue their trend of using the home run ball to account for so many of their runs. In this case, all of them. Utley driving one of them home with his 31st home run of the 3rd inning. This is not unusual for the Phillies. 26 times this season, all of their runs in a game were scored on home runs.
It's rare also to hit that many home runs and to be able to run like they do. When they do get the single, they're dangerous in stealing a base. Talked about their stolen base percentage, but rarely do you see the combination of great stolen base percentage to a team that can hit the home runs.
And they really needed that home run ball over the last few weeks, and there have been some struggles. But they were swept by the Houston Astros in a 4-game series recently, for example. 3-0 to Utley. But they have not been very productive recently with men in scoring position. That's the thing that's concerned Charlie Manuel over the recent past. And when you play in this park and you've got this kind of power, that could overcome a lot. 3-1 to Utley. Pelfrey to this point 80 pitches thrown. So Jerry Manuel will give him at least this inning unless the Phillies get something going. Nice play by Murphy. Pelfrey gets to the bag. Utley for some reason sliding into first base, but that's the first down.
He slid the proper way into first instead of diving in hands first. That's a play that makes sense to me. Sliding in like that on a throw where a guy has to make a tough play. You avoid being hit if the throw's to the right. You don't see this that often. I know exactly what you're saying. How many times do you see a guy slide feet first into first base? Rarely.
Ryan Howard, the batter, and he's 2 for 2, both singles. Well, do you subscribe to the theory that you slow yourself down by sliding into first base?
Hands first. I think you take a chance on ruining your career going into any base hands first. Pete Rose did more to get young players to do that than any player. Pete used to slide in, and Pete had a knack. Pete never got hurt anyway. He would slide into bases, and I think the next generation of base runners thought that was the proper thing to do, and it's not. And it's been proven time and time again. Too dangerous.
0-2 to Howard, right into the glove of David Wright with the infield overshifted. That's the third baseman Wright playing effectively in the shortstop spot. And Howard's had that happen before. So 2 away, and now Raul Ibanez. Ibanez hit the 2-run homer in the 3rd inning, which gave the Phillies the lead for the first time. So that's 4 home runs now in the last 6 games for Ibanez, after hitting just 1 in 34 while he was coming back from that groin injury. But Tim, to watch him run now, he's still not all the way back physically, I don't think.
No, I agree with that. We talked to Charlie Manuel about that before the game, and Charlie says, they tell me he's all right, and he's all right. But you can tell by that gait, that gait of his looks like his groin is still bothering him a bit.
That's an underrated manager right there.
I'll say. To know him is to love him. He can flat out manage.
Ibanez down on strikes, and Pelfrey gets the side in order. We head to the 6th. Phillies leading 6-4. Favorite team no matter where you live with NFL Sunday Ticket on DirecTV. By KFC, now get the great taste of new Kentucky Grilled Chicken on the KFC Ultimate Value menu, and by Caduet. We head to the 6th inning with the Phillies leading the Mets 6-4 here in Philadelphia. Jamie Moyer has retired 14 Mets in a row after the first 5 hit safely against him to start the game. 0-1 to Fernando Tatis. He singled and fouled out to third. Tatis, Wright, and Beltran due up for the Mets. One and one to Tatis. Fernando, a great story, was out of baseball for a year or two and needed to raise money to rebuild his church down in the Dominican Republic. Off the leg of Moyer, Rollins unable to uncork a throw. He might have had a chance if he got rid of that ball right away.
Ball hit the left leg of Jamie Moyer, and trickled toward Rollins at shortstop. Kind of a delayed break by Jimmy. He makes the pivot, but couldn't have held the ball properly. And Tatis, the first base runner since the first inning for New York.
So that means David Wright is the potential tying run at the plate. But again, when you think of David Wright over the course of his career, you think power threat instantly. And this year it's been totally different. Just 8 home runs. Moyer fooled him there. No balls, 1 strike.
Good changeup. That was a fastball swing and a changeup right there. David, I think, trying to tie this ball game with 1 swing.
Got tied up, and Moyer hits the inside corner.
Catchers in the minor leagues are taught about combinations, tangential pitches, back-to-back pitches. And a fastball inside is always a good pitch after a changeup away.
Came in. That's 1 out, but not 2. Tatis not far enough towards second base so that Feliz could double him up, but Wright hit it hard, and that's the first out.
The reason for that is those tandem pitches, change up and then fastball away, is you speed the bat head up with the changeup, and then you come inside and you tie a guy up. But it's very important for combination pitches.
Carlos Beltran hit a 2-run homer in the first inning. And Moyer hits the outside corner.
I think Asali Hemus, as manager of the Cardinals back in the early 60s, said that Bob Gibson would never be a good major league pitcher because he throws too many pitches the same speed. And Asali was right. He was wrong in saying that Bob would never be a good pitcher, but he was right in saying that he threw pitches alike. All of them were very hard.
Even his breaking pitches?
Oh,
his quote off-speed stuff?
Oh, yeah. Bob didn't have any off-speed stuff. He didn't. Slider was just a few miles per hour slower than the fastball.
2-1 to Carlos Beltran. Jeff Francoeur waiting on deck. That's lined pretty deep to left. Back goes Ibanez, and he makes the play, and now Tatis has to get back to first. Ibanez thinks it's the 3rd out.
Yeah,
I think he thought it. Yeah, he did.
He does.
They'll get him in kangaroo court for that.
Fortunately for the Phillies, Tatis was not tagging, but Raul thinks this inning is over.
Others in that situation have provided a souvenir with that baseball, thinking it was the 3rd out. Oh, he's not going to get away with that in the clubhouse.
No.
He's already hearing it. Well, Right now for the Bank of America Fan Cam. Want to show the world it's not like love? It's love. Get MLB banking only from Bank of America. This may be the video definition of surreal. Not the Philly fanatic in the dress, but you have to take a beat, listen carefully to realize that is not Frank Sinatra. That is Tim McCarver on a new CD.
This is a surprise to me. I did not know the fanatic was going to do this.
Well, that clinches it. You, sir, are a Renaissance man. Francoeur hits it hard, but Feliz puts it away. The stylings of Tim McCarver on display here at the ballpark.
What a life.
I'll tell the waiter to tell him he's wanted on the telephone.
Ladies and gentlemen, Phyllis Fanatic dancing to the familiar musical stylings.
So you're right after the first pitch to Jason Worth, who leads off the bottom of the 6th inning. So 1-0 to Worth, who's 0 for 2. Jason Worth, Pedro Feliz, and Carlos Ruiz to hit against Mike Pelfrey. Pelfrey now has thrown 89 pitches, certainly a manageable number at this stage of the game. Crowds him, and it's 2-0. Ball 3. 7 times now Mike Pelfrey has gone to 3-ball counts. And that's asking for trouble in a ballpark where you just cannot afford to put people on. He's only walked 1, though. And the Phillies have hit 3 out of the yard. Big hop for David Wright. 1 away. And now the Flomax replay.
Right on the button for Chase Utley. And then Raul Ibanez on a good pitch from Pelfrey and off the plate. Hits it a little above the trademark, but still well enough to get it out of this ballpark.
Feliz 1 for 2, a home run. They're probably still kidding Ibanez about the fly ball when he thought it was the 3rd out.
That's right.
1-1 to Feliz. We've seen guys in that situation give the ball to a fan. Most famously Larry Walker some years ago. Fortunately, Ibanez held on to it. And the count 2-1 to Pedro Feliz. Feliz a good, solid defensive third baseman who hits enough. And I think that his glove, therefore, becomes a little bit overlooked. This is a good defensive ball club. To the gap in right center. Francoeur plays the carom, and that's a two-base hit for Pedro Feliz, his 25th of the year.
Like most hitters, when they think the opposite field, the barrel of the bat goes toward the fastball away, and Feliz rifles one into right center field. See, if he's pulling off that ball, there's no way for him to hit that ball as effectively as he did. You think right field, you're going to be a much better hitter. And that's what Charlie Manuel's tried to preach to Feliz in the 2 years he's been with the Phillies.
And Carlos Ruiz has been aboard twice. Back through the middle. And that's going to get Feliz home, and the Phillies lead 7-4. Well, Carlos Ruiz drives in his 22nd run.
I think the Mets have to get somebody up now. I think Dan Warthen and Jerry Manuel delaying that because the pitchers due up fourth in the top of the 7th inning. You think of Mike Peltry, 7 earned runs he's already given up in this game.
And now Jamie Moyer in a bunt situation pulls it back, and the Mets get the left-hander Ken Takahashi up in the bullpen. Jerry Manuel may have been holding back this long on getting somebody up behind Pelfrey with an eye towards tomorrow, because the Mets and Phillies have a day-night doubleheader. And in the opener, John Mayne is going to make his first start since June. Bunted foul by Moyer, 1 ball and 1 strike. And basically, Jerry Manuel's already designated rookie Toby Stoner to back up John Mayne tomorrow, and probably be the first man in relief of Mayne, who's expected to throw no more than about 70 pitches. And it might be that Jerry's been trying to save his bullpen a bit here with an eye towards that day-nighter tomorrow.
Well, you do have a couple of extra pitchers since it's after September 1st. After September 1st, you may know that rosters can be expanded.
Moyer bunts foul, 1-2. Mets have an 8-man bullpen right now. They've been carrying 7 most of the year. And the bullpen as it's currently constituted looks nothing like what they envisioned when the season started. Losing J.J. Putz, who was supposed to have pitched the 8th inning to set up Frankie Rodriguez. 2-2 to Moyer. But Jamie Moyer is going to work into the 7th inning at the age of 46. Here come the corners with 2 strikes, and Moyer gets it down nicely. And the scramble to cover third, and holding on at second base is Ruiz. Let's take a look at the Hyundai in-game box score for the Philadelphia Phillies. The runs until this inning were all delivered via the home run ball. Only that double by Ruiz, which brought home Pedro Feliz, accounted for a Philadelphia run that did not leave the yard. Now, a couple of things going on here. First, Dan Warthen, the Mets pitching coach, after the umbrellas pop up. This was not supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to get better as the day progressed today.
That's right. The game played in rain last night. At times pouring. With scattered showers predicted for today, but it was supposed to be a little later on this evening.
It's in the hands now of Gary Darling. He's the crew chief, the third base umpire. And you're right, that game last night was on a miserable night that was played from beginning to end with something coming down. Mist, rain, wind, which made matters difficult. And now Jimmy Rollins, who singled in a run. Actually, it was Rollins' RBI hit that delivered the first run that was not via the home run ball. And then came the single by Ruiz here in the 6th. And after a trip to the mound and a conference, Pelfrey and Santos have to get together again. Well, we've seen bluer skies. You got a song on your album about blue skies? That is great. You might have heard. I mean,
Thank you.
Tim McCarver, called by the PA announcer here, is one of the most well-known crooners in the country. Jimmy Rollins takes outside. When did you actually record that series of Sinatra songs?
It'll be 2 years in January. And kind of stayed in my closet for a year and a half. And not until early this year where we have ideas about making it public, but it will be on Amazon.com and iTunes this coming week.
So check the Billboard charts in the weeks ahead. Rollins pops it foul and out of play, and the count 2-1.
Tell you, Howie, I did have one of the great experiences of my life, and I mean that sincerely. There's a gentleman named Sid Mark who has been on the air since 1956. He's on Fridays and Sundays, and he's a legendary performer here in Philadelphia.
Rollins lines one to right. Francoeur can't reach it, and that's going to be at least 2 and maybe 3. Ruiz scores. Rollins trying for third. Triple for Jimmy Rollins. 8-4 Philadelphia.
Well, speaking of legendary performers, a former MVP driving in the 8th unanswered run this afternoon. So the Mets with a 4-0 lead in the top of the first inning, and now the Phillies lead it 8-4.
Well, you were saying about Sid Mark.
Sid Mark, we taped an hour show and shared that hour with Frank Sinatra, and it was one of the biggest thrills. We taped the show on Thursday, and it'll be played tomorrow on 12:10 a.m. here in Philadelphia from 11 to 12. Talk about a thrill for me. I mean, that was really a thrill.
Shane Victorino trying to get the run home from third. And it's 1-1. Now, did you hone that skill in some piano bars across the country?
Yes.
Jilly's in Chicago come to mind?
Yes.
Now, Jilly a good friend of Frank Sinatra's, right?
Yes, that's right. Jilly Rizzo.
Jilly Rizzo on Rush Street in Chicago. A little boy can get lost. And Victorino out in front. It's 1-2. So Pelfrey over the 100 pitch mark, but the Phillies piling on the runs now. With an 8-4 lead and a runner at third and 2 out. Tatis gets under it, and that retires the side. 2 more for the Phillies. We'll be back to Philadelphia right after these messages from your local Fox station.
My romance is
Jamie Moyer out to start the 7th inning. He trailed by 4. Now he leads by 4. And Santos, who's 0 for 2, takes outside. Santos, Murphy, and Valdez due up for the Mets. And if it gets down to the pitcher spot, no doubt a pinch hitter for Mike Pelfrey. 1-1 to Omir Santos. Mets have had just 1 hit since the 1st inning. And a curveball, and a good one by Jamie Moyer. 1-2.
Howie, you can imagine what kind of confidence a pitcher takes out there and gives up that many runs in the 1st inning, but knows he has an offense behind him who can make up the difference, and that's what the Phillies have done today. Gives up 4 in the top of the 1st. He knows just hold them tight, don't panic. And he has pitched well since the 1st inning and given his offense a chance to.
Long drive by Santos chasing Victorino back, and that's the 1st out. Well, the sounds of the game goes back to Raul Ibanez thinking he'd caught the 3rd out. It wasn't, and Victorino let him know.
Hey, man, my corner outfielders are making me look bad. I'm getting yelled at being the captain out there. So I was screaming the whole time, "Hi! Hi!" And you just going, oh my God. We got my right fielder just launch padded.
Call strike to Daniel Murphy. Of course, you know, Ibanez could have said, well, how do I know what A means? Why don't you just say it's only 2 out?
That's right. I've got my back to the scoreboard. What do I know?
Well, you knew that was going to produce some action in the dugout once he got back in. And there is the visual and the audio proof. Thanks to Shane Victorino. 1-1 to Murphy.
There were only 2 outs when Raul tucked his head, ran toward the dugout, and then panicked.
That's the big front row right there. Line foul down the right field line. You know, you see that HK on the front of the Phillies jerseys and some happy fans in the suite with Ken Takahashi warming up in the bullpen. That HK is in memory of the late and great Harry Kalas, the longtime voice of the Philadelphia Phillies, who was revered in this town. Murphy lines one to right center field for a base hit, and it skips away from Victorino. Now Ibanez has some arsenal to direct towards Victorino, and Murphy's at second. See if they scored 1-1 with a 2-base hit.
This ball takes a similar hop that we saw earlier to Jason Worth. Worth with the long arms came up with it. Victorino didn't.
And apparently a double for Murphy. But they continue to remember the late Harry Kalas in the Phillies dugout, Tim. Murphy runs, the pitch taken for a ball, and Murphy steals third base. So 1-0 to Wilson Valdez. And the Phillies leading 8-4.
That's a good play, and obviously with the Mets trailing by 4 runs, you have to make that every time. I mean every time.
Valdez takes down and in. 2-0. They could just as easily put a pair of white shoes in that Phillies dugout to go along with that blue jacket, couldn't they?
Yeah, that's right.
For Harry?
That's right.
Chan Park getting ready for the Phillies.
Harry the K.
That'll get a run home as Feliz goes to first and just does get it there ahead of Valdez. Murphy scores. It's 8-5. Now 2 out, nobody on. Pepsi, the official soft drink of Major League Baseball, would like to congratulate Hideki Matsui, who the fans have voted August MLB Clutch Performer of the Month, presented by Pepsi. Learn more about the MLB Clutch Performer of the Month award at PepsiClutch.com. And now Nick Evans, a right-hand hitter, will bat for Mike Pelfrey. So Pelfrey leads after 6 innings when he allowed 10 hits and 8 runs, and that's after he took 4 runs in his hip pocket with him to the mound before he threw his first pitch. strike one to Nick Evans. This kid had a real tough year. He thought he made the club out of spring training. Then the Mets got Gary Sheffield. Evans went down and didn't hit a lick at AAA. Outside and low, 1 ball and 1 strike, and spent most of the year in the minor leagues. Mike Pelfrey is back to the drawing board after an excellent last time out. 8 runs allowed in 6 innings today. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Nick Evans.
We talked about it earlier. I think that's one of the things that the Mets will try to do this winter, is try to squelch this sense of futility throughout the organization.
2-2.
I mean, almost to a man. Throughout the minor league system, throughout the major league system, the coaching staff, the manager, there is nothing that can be viewed as sunny. Nothing.
Pedro Feliz throws out Evans. It's raining here in Philadelphia, but it's rained offense. Jamie Moyer has a 3-run lead. Is sponsored by Bing, the first ever decision engine from Microsoft. By Hyundai Assurance, a little certainty in uncertain times. And by Pepsi. Pepsi is the official soft drink of Major League Baseball. 8-5 Phillies as we go to the bottom of the 7th. Let's take a look at the Zantac relief pitcher profile. Heartburn, attack it. Zantac. Ken Takahashi was actually attacked by the first pitch he threw in the major leagues. That was against the Phillies here in May, and Shane Victorino almost drove it right through his midsection. He knocked it down and was able to get a force play, but Mike Pelfrey once again in deep thought, trying to make sense of what happened this afternoon. And now the Phillies continue to massage their bullpen with Brett Myers, apparently the guy who's going to get the 8th inning, in anticipation perhaps of a Ryan Matson closing opportunity. Chase Utley takes low from Takahashi.
Gives you an idea of how unusual this game is. Here it is in the bottom of the 7th inning. 13 runs have been scored, and we've had the first pitching change, and that's Takahashi.
2-0 on Chase Utley. Takahashi's been up twice with the Mets this year. The first time he didn't get the lefties out. That's what he was supposed to have been brought here for. 40 years old. First year in the major leagues. Ryan Howard, left-hand hitter, behind him, and another left-hand batter, and Raul Ibanez afterwards. Rain has slackened off now. It was raining pretty hard just about 5 minutes ago. And that's hit hard. So 2-1 to Chase Utley.
One of the reasons why Takahashi does not get a lot of left-handers out and have good success against left-handers, he doesn't have a tailing fastball in on the hands. A left-handed hitter, you have to be able to run the fastball in on him in order to be effective and then go away. Too many balls in that area away from left-handers.
That was up, and it's drilled into the corner. So Utley looking for 2. And he's standing with a leadoff double. Tomorrow, the biggest games of the week. The first week are right here on Fox. Brett Favre makes his Viking debut as Minnesota faces the Browns. Romo and the Cowboys kick off their season against the Bucs. And Eli and the Giants in their home opener against the Redskins. A great slate of opening weekend action right here only on Fox tomorrow, starting at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. How about this? It brought Albert Haynesworth into Washington to stop the run, and he's going right after Brandon Jacobs, who returns fired. Tim?
They all fall the same.
They haven't snapped the ball yet, and the war of words is on. See that one tomorrow on Fox, the marquee matchup between the Redskins and the Giants. 0-1 to Ryan Howard.
Sounds like a lumberjack. They all fall the same. Like he's talking about redwoods instead of people.
Brandon Jacobs is a redwood. Yeah. So is this guy, Ryan Howard.
Right. That's right.
One thing about Howard, though, you could strike him out. Second most strikeouts in the league behind Mark Reynolds of the Arizona Diamondbacks, who set a record last year with over 200. And Howard rolls it off the screen near the Phillies dugout, and it's 1-2. Well, Ryan Howard is working according to his recent form this year, and he's got Ibanez behind him now. You know, in other years leading up to this one, kind of lukewarm in May, June, July, but come August and September, he really gets it going, and this year has been no exception. One of the reasons the Phillies have won the last 2 Eastern Division championships. Foul ball off of Howard.
Boy, the ball hit the bat.
Must have.
I guess it did. Howard doesn't argue. But that replay looked like Santos laid a glove on it, and it didn't hit the bat.
So Utley in scoring position with nobody out. And that one got the bat and then the foot of Ryan Howard. Didn't even faze him. And the Phillies gained a game last night when Florida lost. The Cardinals, the runaway winners in the Central. The Rockies look like they've got at least the wild card locked up now. And the question is really between the Dodgers and Colorado, who wins the West. Broken bat, and it hangs up for Francoeur. Utley tags, but you don't run on the arm of Jeff Francoeur under most circumstances. And kudos to Francoeur also, Tim. He's been playing with a torn ligament in his thumb for about a month now, and he's going to need surgery at the end of the year.
Most guys would be on the disabled list if they had a thumb as bad as Francoeur's. No question.
You talk about looking for something, anything that's gone right for the Mets this year. It's been the addition of Jeff Francoeur and what he's brought to the clubhouse in terms of his personality. You know, this Phillies team is a terrific clubhouse. It's one of the easiest to work for a reporter. They all seem to get along. You saw some of the stuff in the dugout with Victorino and Ibanez, and Francoeur gives the Mets a little bit of that dimension, which they frankly could use some more of. 1-0 to Ibanez. Fastball fouled back to the screen.
Ibanez was the first free agent to sign last year, and what a shrewd move it was by the Philadelphia Phillies. There would be a lot of organizations that would have a tendency to sit on their laurels after winning a world championship. The Phillies looked around immediately, identified their problem left field, signed a guy you talked about good in the clubhouse. This guy's among the best. Not only a great player, but a superhuman being that earns the respect of everybody immediately.
Sean Green getting ready in the Mets bullpen. Well, they had a seamless transition in the front office here in Philadelphia when Pat Gillett retired as general manager. Ruben Amaro Jr. had been groomed for that job for years and has stepped in and done an excellent job. 2-2 to Ibanez.
Not only signing Ibanez initially, but then the Pedro Martinez deal. I mean, they really signed Martinez and didn't have to pay him a lot of money to do it, $1 million or so over a 2.5-month period. That's not chump change now, but it's not the type of contracts that you're used to seeing out of successful guys. Martinez goes tomorrow. He is 4-0 on the year.
Past Castillo. Here comes Utley. Francoeur with a wild throw. And down to second goes Ibanez. 9-5 Philadelphia.
He had a bad throw last night. In fact, he had 2 of them. And some of it's got to be attributed to a wet field. I mean, you don't see Jeff Francoeur make a throw this far off.
So Jerry Manuel is going to make his move with the right-hand hitters coming up. He's got Sean Green throwing in the bullpen, and the Phillies have their 4-run lead back as Green enters. Will advance to the World Series. Coverage of baseball's postseason returns October the 16th with the American League Championship Series, followed by the World Series, only on Fox. Sean Green in to face Jason Worth. Ibanez at second with 1 out. Breaking ball for a called strike. So the Phillies back up by 4. And Sean Green, guy that they're trying to get straightened out. When he's right, he's got an effective sinker and slider. And they've dropped his arm angle a little bit in an effort to get him back to where he needs to be. Is the slider, and it's 0-2.
Good breaking ball right there, and that's what they'd like to see more of. The fastball down and in, and then the breaking ball out on the corner like that. You got to have awfully long arms to hit that pitch.
And on 3 pitches, Green gets Jason Worth. So 2 men away.
0-1 pitch was a slider in the strike zone, and 0-2 he just went a little farther away to get Worth.
Brett Myers continues to get ready for the 8th. Right now, if the score holds at the margin of the Phillies' lead here, it would not be a save situation, and I don't know whether that would impact the decision by Charlie Manuel about using Brad Lidge.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Once you see Myers up in the 8th inning, if it's still a 4-run ball game or even more, it might give Charlie Manuel and the Phillies a little more of a cushion to bring Lidge in the game. Not the 8th, but perhaps the 9th.
What do you think would help Lidge more in the funk that he's been in? Getting back into a save situation, or maybe getting an inning when the game is not at risk as much?
I don't know. I think from a common sense standpoint, it seems to me that in non-save situations, you work your way back up to a save situation. Right now, you get the feeling that unless it's an extra inning game, at least for the next week and a half or so, that Rich Doobie and Charlie Manuel will build up confidence, arm strength. If you keep throwing him out there, it's a tough thing. I don't know. You're dealing with confidence, as Charlie Manuel said. There's nothing structurally wrong with him. He's fine. He's healthy. Check up from the neck up. That's it.
Well, the Phillies feeling fine through 7 as they have up the lead to 9-5. This could be something of a secret weapon for the Phillies moving towards the postseason. Brett Myers back from hip surgery, working the 8th inning here, where the Phillies leading New York 9-5. Castillo takes a called strike. Myers pitched last night, although he could no doubt hardly remember it. He retired the side in order, and all he threw were 6 pitches. 1 ball and 1 strike to Castillo. It's top of the Mets order here with Tatis and Wright to follow.
Yeah, I get your drift because Brett Myers saved 21 games only 2 years ago.
Breaking ball rolled to Rollins. 1 away. Now for DirecTV game break, we take you to Anaheim. Scott Pasednik hits a fly ball to right off Irvin Santana. It will bounce off the wall, off of Bobby Abreu's hand. And Scott Pasednik is going to come all the way around and inside the park home run. That made it 2-0. And the White Sox now have a 3-0 lead with that game in the bottom of the 7th inning. Now Fernando Tatis, the batter, he's 2 out of 3. And fouls it back. Myers was the closer for the Phillies 2 years ago. Primarily a starting pitcher over the course of his career. And then came down with a hip problem that required surgery and cost him 3 months this year. Breaking ball missed, 1-1. So is he considered insurance of sorts for Brad Lidge? Would Ryan Madson simply inherit the closer's role if Lidge continues to struggle, or is Myers the wild card there?
Oh, I think the latter is the case. He is their wild card. He's their John Smoltz.
Curveball inside. John Smoltz helping round out the St. Louis Cardinals rotation. That's going to be an interesting thing to watch. If the Cardinals and the Phillies should meet during the playoffs, the Cardinals have an all right-handed pitching staff, meaning their starters. 2-2 to Tatis, and you look at those big 3 the Phillies have left-handed. You would think you'd want to have a left-handed arm or 2 ready to neutralize them. But then to counteract that, the Phillies actually have a better record against left-handed starters than they do against right-handed starters. Cardinals have Dennis Reyes and Trevor Miller in the bullpen left-handed.
Yeah, but you have Chris Carpenter and Adam Wainwright. Those 1 and 2 guys, they're really good. I mean, those guys are really good. I don't think it matters left-handed, right-handed, what have you. They have developed into one of the best 1-2 punches in the major leagues.
Joel Piñeiro's had a pretty nice season as their 3rd starter.
Yeah.
They've got some depth there.
Yep.
Pulled hard and past the diving Feliz. Now Ibanez has to move in to play the carom, and Tatis is standing at second. So he's got his 3rd hit of the game. Let's take a look at the Just for Men hair color hold leaders. Just as the Phillies bullpen keeps their team in the game, you too can stay in the game with Just for Men hair color. The hold is not something that was widely noted some years back, but with a specialization of pitching staffs and particularly the bullpen over the years, that is now considered something that managers will look for from specific pitchers in specific roles. So your 8th inning guy, your 7th inning guy is often looked at as a hold leader. And now David Wright bats with a runner in scoring position. He had a 2-run double in the 1st inning. 1-0.
The reason that the hold is not encouraged by major league owners is that would give the agents another card with which to deal to talk about their pitchers as far as official stats are concerned.
Nolan Ryan would just as soon obliterate that hold statistic, as he is trying to re-teach, if you will, his Texas Rangers pitchers, not only at the major league level, but organizationally, what used to be what you would take for granted, that a starting pitcher is out there to go as long as he can. 1-2 to Wright.
It's been successful too, because last year the Rangers were 30th, dead last in the major leagues as far as working deeply into the games. They're 6th this year. So Nolan Ryan, in only his 2nd year, has reaped dividends with that philosophy.
David Wright hits it well. Back goes Ibanez, and David Wright has a 2-run homer. And suddenly the Phillies' lead is down to 2 runs. Only the 9th home run of the year for David Wright, and his first since the 5th of August back at Citi Field in New York against the St. Louis Cardinals. And that is a welcome sight, even in this ballpark, and even though the Mets continue to trail in this game, this is a welcome sight to the New York Mets.
Fastball that looked like it was down and in, down inside part of the plate. Just hammered by Wright. This is always a tough job for a pitching coach, because the pitcher on the mound knows that the intention of the pitching coach is to delay things as the Phillies get Hancho Park up. So it's always a tough job. You see a pitching coach go out to the mound in this situation, and the pitcher has some different looks or different ways to ignore him, as Myers is doing with Doobie. Rich understands.
Of course, then there's the continuation when the manager comes out in a situation where he doesn't automatically have to take the pitcher out if there hasn't been a previous trip. Tommy Lasorda, most famously in the World Series, stalled for time by asking the late John McSherry, say, what would you do here? I got these guys in the bullpen, they've got these guys, and all he did was buy time. Carlos Beltran takes low, 1-0.
That might be the only thing Tommy buys.
No, I hadn't heard that. See, you learned something here. Down and into Beltran, 2 balls and no strikes.
Just kidding. Kind of.
Sort of.
Sort of.
2-0 to Beltran. Taken for a called strike, 2-1. Years ago, Tim, I worked at a radio station, a country station in New York, WHN, where they wanted celebrity sports people to come in and become guest DJs. So we talked Tommy Lasorda into doing it. The 2-1 in for a called strike, 2-2. Now, we couldn't pay him. So Tommy said, well, if you let me take my coaches out to dinner, I'll have no problem doing it. He said, fine. About $800 later, and this is in the late 1970s. That's probably about $2,000 today's money.
Sure.
Tommy took his coaches out to dinner.
Tommy lives right.
There's the 2-2. The breaking ball taken low. Full count. Luckily, when I showed up for work the next day, the key still worked to get into the door. So now the Mets looking to bring the tying run to the plate if they can get a runner on here. And Beltran is on base. Ibanez, I think even if he had fielded it cleanly, would have trapped it. This will give you a better look.
Yep.
So now the Mets will bring the tying run to the plate, and Charlie Manuel doesn't have to ask the home plate umpire, Bruce Dreckman, what he should do here, because he's got no choice. He's got to go to his bullpen. So the Mets making a little noise, and Chan Ho Park will face the potential tying run at home plate. Well, home runs are plays too, and it's been the key play for the Phillies all year, really, the home run ball. They trailed 4-0 before they had a time at bat. And those 3 home runs by Feliz, Utley, and Ibanez brought them back into a lead they continue to hold.
So here's Chan Ho Park, the 3rd Phillies pitcher. Depending whether the Phillies get out of this inning, a lot of intrigue about what's going to happen in the 9th inning.
We're back to speculating on Lidge again.
Yeah.
Right now it's a safe situation. And Francoeur hits one to left, sending Ibanez back. And that's the 2nd out. Well, the park was built just big enough for that one, according to Raul Ibanez.
Looked like Francoeur was looking for a fastball in. That ball had a late tail on it and just keeps it in the ballpark.
Francoeur, a very aggressive, long-noted first ball hitter. So he just missed it, and now Santos, who's 0 for 3. The breaking ball fouled back. Santos has been struggling at the plate lately. Lidge knows all about struggles, and he's wondering whether or not he might get the call. 1-1. If Park gets Santos here, then Lidge might find out sooner than later, because Charlie Manuel will no doubt get somebody up and get ready to work the 9th inning, either Matson or Lidge.
Particularly with the pitcher, the 2nd hitter, due up in the bottom of the 8th inning.
Well, 2-1 to Omir Santos. That's really happy with the find they made with Santos, who is most recently in the Baltimore Orioles system. 3-1. Key hit of Santos's season was against Jonathan Papelbon at Fenway Park in May with 2 out, 2 strikes in the 9th inning.
Back on May 23rd, a reviewable home run, right?
Yep. And it took a while before they were able to officially award the home run to Santos that gave the Mets the lead.
Couple of inches above the yellow line on the monster, right?
Yep.
At Fenway Park.
The 3-1 line to center. And Beltran will stop at second, so now the tying runs are aboard, and the potential go-ahead run is coming up. Daniel Murphy, a left-hand batter. And the Mets, who lead the National League this year in hitting with runners in scoring position, have been true to that today. They've gone 4 for 5 with men in scoring position.
I think you need to use a pinch runner right now for Omir Santos. You've got Pagan on the bench, or Anderson Hernandez.
Looks like,
but Santos is not the runner you want in the ball game for representing the tying run at first base in the 8th inning.
Murphy takes the strike. And Murphy's a guy who has some power. He's hit 9 this year, but usually you think about him more in terms of shooting the gaps or hitting it down the line, which would further test Santos' ability to score from first base.
That's right.
1-1. Well, the Phillies bullpen is quiet. They really don't have a lefty available with Scott Air. I mean, they do have Jack Tashner and Sergio Escalona. Borderline. The 1-1 breaking ball. This probably would be a situation to cry out for Scott Air, but he's got some bone chips in his elbow. He thinks he's going to be back. Took a cortisone shot. Hopes to be back next week. But right now it's on Chan Ho Park. Nelson Figueroa, last night's starter for New York, and a former Philly too. Murphy lines it over the glove of Utley. That's going to get Beltran home. Santos to third. It's a 1-run game. 9-8 Philadelphia. So back-to-back 2-out hits against Chan Ho Park. Mets now 5 out of 6 in this game with men in scoring position and nobody up in the Phillies bullpen.
Yeah, low fastball to Murphy. Good play by Jason Worth to keep that ball from going by him. Santos stops at third, Murphy at first. And here comes Rich Doobie again. You know what's turning into a rather big play was that stolen base by Daniel Murphy, the steal of third base. When the Mets were down by 4 runs, that allowed the Mets to score a cheap run on a ground out. And now that run becomes a key run. Didn't think it would be at the time, but it's turned out to be that way.
Thought even less about that after the Phillies got that run right back.
Yeah,
right. The run sort of became an afterthought. See what's coming up next week here on Fox as the races head into their final 3 weeks. Regular season ending 3 weeks from tomorrow. And David Wright, a contributor today with 4 runs batted in. And Charlie Manuel may not have the luxury of thinking about who to bring in to protect the lead in the 9th inning. But again, nobody throwing right now for him here in the 8th.
Looks like Ryan Matson's taking his jacket off. I think that's Matson.
Where is it?
No, it looks like, I don't know who it is.
It looks like him. That guy. Well, that
Tyler
guy
Walker
is Tyler Walker, right?
Yeah, right.
That's perfect. Standing up on cue like that.
Thank you, Tyler.
Corey Sullivan, the pinch hitter, tying run at third. Go ahead, run at first. And it's 1-1. Sullivan's done a nice job for New York. He was with them in spring training, didn't make the ball club. But then, with all the injuries, found his way to New York in midsummer and has been a dependable outfielder with the bat and the glove. Down and in, 2-1. Sullivan not a kid by baseball standards. He's 30 years of age. Well, the crowd, as you could probably hear, getting a little antsy. They got a little wet before, but the rain has stopped. Mets have scored 3 times here in the 8th inning to get it down to a 1-run Phillies lead. Sullivan out in front. Chan-Ho Park has a standing crowd trying to urge him through this top of the 8th inning. Mets led 4-0, and then the Phillies came back. Wound up leading 9-4 at one point. Shallow left, but Rollins gets there. 8 men come to the plate in the 8th. 3 of them score. And things have gotten a little tight in the Phillies dugout. life well spent. You have spent your afternoon quite well with us, we hope, this afternoon. Good game, 9-8 Phillies. Anderson Hernandez, the new shortstop for New York. As Wilson Valdez was hit for by Corey Sullivan, so Sean Green will stay on to do the pitching for the Mets. He retired the only 2 batters that he faced in the 7th, relieving Ken Takahashi. Now a guy the Mets haven't gotten out today, Carlos Ruiz, and a left-hander, Pedro Feliciano, getting ready in the Mets pen. 1-0 now to Ruiz. In case this inning comes down to Utley, Howard, and Ibanez, Jerry Manuel is ready, and Charlie Lidge's decision apparently is Ryan Madson for the 9th. Matt Stairs waiting on deck. He had really struggled up until hitting a grand slam a couple of nights ago against the Washington Nationals. Murphy takes it to the bag. 1 out. And the Phillies will go to Matt Stairs. Coming up tonight on Fox, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, Cups, and then another season premiere of America's Most Wanted at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, coming up tonight on Fox. Well, here's Matt Stairs, who had been 0 for 30. 0 for his last 30. Hadn't had a hit since the All-Star break before he hit a pinch hit grand slam earlier in the week against the Washington Nationals. And he's batting for Chan Ho Park. No balls, 1 ball, no strikes.
Cult hero here in Philadelphia, 40-year-old Matt Stairs. Listen to the broad telecast last night. They were talking about he's almost like another coach on the bench, and that is absolutely true. Very, very popular here in Philadelphia. And another guy is very, very popular in Philadelphia. A guy who's coming out with a new book next week, Chris Wheeler. His 4 decades with the Phillies. And our congratulations to Wheels on a terrific book with some great stories in it.
And I understand, as the 1-1 is delivered, a breaking ball for a called strike, that you wrote the foreword to Wheels' book.
I did.
Oh, look at that.
It was an absolute pleasure, too, to a great guy and a great professional. And we wish him all the best with a terrific book. And I mean a very, very good book that Philly fans will love.
Well, I like what I read, too. I'll tell you why in a moment. As Stairs pops up to Murphy at first. 2 men away. I learned something from Wheels. You used to show up, and I guess the Fanatic found out about it too. Very emotional reading for the Fanatic, but used to show up at spring training. You did with business cards to kind of cut down on the chit chat.
I did. I did. I answered all the questions that are always answered in spring training. Did you drive down?
It's kind of like cutting to the chase.
Where are you living?
And it was on a handy business card.
On a handy business card.
Jimmy Rollins takes low and away.
Instead of all the excess chatter, just give him a card. That's the only business card I've ever had.
Get to the card and then to the meat of the conversation.
That's correct.
You asked him, how are you doing? It's a loaded question. The 1-0 taken low by Rollins, 2-0. Of course, if you ask some people how they're doing, you find out for a period of about a half hour, too.
You get a loaded answer.
Jimmy Rollins is doing fine today with 2 for 4. A couple of RBIs. And Green behind him, 3-0. Now Victorino, a switch hitter, is on deck. And he's batted 40 points higher against left-hand pitching this year. So if Rollins gets on, Jerry Manuel will probably give Green Victorino. And we'll find out instantly. But either way, Victorino will undoubtedly be Green's last assignment with those 3 left-hand hitters up next with Feliciano thrown. Remind you again tomorrow, big doubleheader here on Fox with the pregame starting at noon Eastern. Donovan McNabb and the Eagles in Carolina. That's the first game at 1, and then Eli Manning and the Giants are home for their final season at Giant Stadium against the Washington Redskins. 2 great games tomorrow on Fox. 1-0 on Victorino, who's 0 for 4. A great speed aboard here. Remember earlier in the game, Jimmy Rollins tried to steal second, and Victorino hurried his swing and tapped out to first. All the way to the backstop, and that'll get Rollins down to second base. Only decision Victorino needed to make here was to get out of the way.
Skipping rope out of the way.
So first base open, but there's nobody up behind Victorino that you would really care to face here. So Green will try to get Shane Victorino. Three and 0. And now Santos going to go out to the mound. Phillies would love to get some insurance here. The Mets will have a pinch hitter for the pitcher Sean Green. And then Luis Castillo and Fernando Tatis due up in the 9th. A 1-run Philadelphia lead. Phillies trailed 4-0, led 8-4. And then led 9-5 before the Mets put up a 3 spot in the 8th. Ball 4, and that'll probably be it for Green. Pedro Feliciano looking over his shoulder, just waiting for Jerry Manuel to come out and give him the ball. And here comes Jerry. So looks like a double switch as Jerry heads straight to the home plate on Bruce Dreckman. Chase Utley will face Feliciano next. By Budweiser, the great American lager. Some changes for the Mets. Fernando Tatis moves in from left field to play first base. Jeremy Reed takes over in left field. He'll bat 9th, so he'll be the guy to lead off the top of the 9th. And the new pitcher, the left-hander Pedro Feliciano, will face Chase Utley, who is 2 for 4 in the game. And Pedro's been one of the busiest relievers, second busiest, in fact, in the major leagues.
Yeah, and you saw that 3.17 earned run average. It has not come from left-handed batters. He is one of the tougher left-handers in the National League against lefties.
1 ball and no strikes to Chase Utley. So great speeder board with Rollins at second and Victorino at first. Wide disparity there of 41 points between the lefties and the righties. 3 infielders on the right side again.
I don't know that I would do this. I think Utley is more inclined to hit the ball on the ground to left field against left-handed pitching, particularly a left-hander like Feliciano. So I think he's more apt to hit the ball that way. Now, he may pull it into the hole, but he's less apt to do that against a tough left-hander like Feliciano. And the reason for that is that pitch right there. And plus, left-handers have to wait longer against left-handers that drop down. Yeah, that slider misses away, but if you're trying to go away, I mean, Utley is more prone to go the other way against a left-handed pitcher.
So all kinds of room on the left side of the infield. Check this swing, and it's 3-1.
Feliciano wanted that slider for a strike. Called outside and low by Bruce Dreckman.
Outfield shading towards the pull side. Ball 4. Now Sean Green got the first 2 outs in this inning, then walked Rollins and Victorino, and now Feliciano walks Chase Utley to load him up for Ryan Howard. Howard today is 2 for 4. They've kept him in the park. He has singled twice and scored twice. Ryan Matson getting ready. The Phillies are a long hit away from taking a safe situation away from him. Howard this year has hit 3 grand slams, but he's really struggled against Pedro Feliciano in his career. Pedro struck him out last night. 0-1. Howard is 4 for 30 against Pedro Feliciano, but those are 3 guys aboard who can run. The way Howard hits him, and may also be able to walk. Breaking ball, 1-1. Now the 1 home run, the only modicum of success that he's had against this left-hander. Foul ball.
That was a mistake right there from Feliciano. Fastball coming inside, and you could see Howard looking away. And fortunately for the Phillies and Howard, that ball went foul.
And again, Howard hitting with that infield overshifted a little more drastically even than against Chase Utley. A little deeper, too, because the second baseman Castillo generally will play even deeper than he is now, but with the bases loaded, can't afford to be too deep.
He'll get the slider away. I think Feliciano, some pitchers stare off the catcher, meaning they won't make a move until the catcher changes the sign. They don't like to shake their head. This is almost assuredly going to be a breaking ball away.
Downstairs, though, and it's 2-2. Feliciano's using the same tempo here against both Utley and Howard. But from time to time this year, he has really changed how quickly he's worked with men on base to the point where he borderline quick pitches. Try and show the hitter something different. Here it's been the same. Still 2-2. Jimmy Rollins, Shane Victorino, and Chase Utley all aboard with a 2-2 count to Ryan Howard. Feliciano has dominated him in the past, trying to keep it going here and keep this a one-run game. Got him. So Pedro Feliciano forces the Phillies to leave them loaded, and the Mets will try to make them pay as they'll send Reed, Castillo, and Tatis up against the incoming Ryan Matson as we head to the ninth. And Matson once again gets the closing opportunity for the Phillies.
Yep. No Brad Lidge. So, as you said, I think intrigue's the right word. Really don't know where Brad Lidge stands as far as closing games. A guy who was perfect last year, but has blown 10 saves this year and is winless.
Startling.
It is.
Perfect. And then double digits in blown save. Now Matson's blown 5 also. Hard hit and off the chest of Howard. Nice play, Utley, and he got him. Outstanding play by Chase Utley to bail out Ryan Howard.
How many times do you see a 3-4-3 put out on the infield? There's 3. There's 4 on the bare hand to 3. A 343. To open the 9th inning. How about that?
The routine 3-4-3.
Right.
And even Lidge can appreciate it. So here's Castillo, 1 for 4 in the game. takes a called strike. Castillo has not had a hit in the past against Ryan Madson. He's 0 for 9 against him. 9-8 Philadelphia. Nothing in 2. Madson with a fastball, cuts the fastball. Great changeup.
One of the best changeups of any guys who pitch in relief in the National League.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Our game today is produced by Pete Macheska, directed by Bill Webb. The associate director is Kathy Hunt, and the broadcast associate is Brian Biederman. Our technical producer is Sid Drexler. The technical director is Jonathan Evans. 1-2 to Castillo. Down and in, 2 balls, 2 strikes. The coordinating producer of the studio is Scott Ackerson. The pregame show produced by Don Dewey. Studio technical supervisor is Jack Simmons, and the highlights supervisor is Janice Casaza. 2-2 to Castillo. And a chance for Rollins. Will have to hurry, and he just gets him. So 2 away, and Fernando Tatis, who has 3 hits in the game, the last chance for the Mets. The vice president of field operations is Jerry Steinberg. Senior producer of Fox Sports is Bill Brown. The executive producers of Fox Sports are David Hill and Ed Gorin. So Tatis, the last hope for the Mets. Phillies looking to extend their lead in the National League East. Coming in, it was 6 over the second place Marlins. And it's raining in Florida, where they're ready to play the Nationals. No balls and 1 strike. David Wright hoping for a chance. Tatis has not had a hit against Madson. He's 0 for 5. The 0-1. Fair ball going down the first base line. Tatis is going to put on the brakes, and then Worth throws it away, but Ibanez alertly makes sure to back up and holds Tatis at first base. A very important play by Ibanez, and very fortuitous construction here at Citizens Bank Ballpark for the Phillies.
Yeah, of course, Tatis does not know the right fielder Jason Worth is going to airmail the ball. You can take a little wider turn because Ryan Howard is not on the bag. But the reason that Tatis, once he rounds the bag, he doesn't know how close, how close Howard is. So you can't take that wide turn because your right fielder is close enough to throw behind you and get you. So fortunately for the Phillies, even though Worth overthrew the ball, Ibanez backed up very well.
So Tatis, the tying run at first, and the go-ahead run, David Wright, the batter, with 2 out of the 9th inning. And the outfield very deep. And this one's hit deep to left field. Back goes Ibanez, and the Mets take the lead. David Wright with his second 2-run homer of the game. Wright has driven in 6 runs, and the Phillies see another blown save. This one by Ryan Madson. New York 10, Philadelphia 9. And this story gets more and more interesting in Philadelphia.
Now the New York Mets trying to do to the Philadelphia Phillies what the Phillies have done to them the last 2 years, in 2007 and 2008. Put a crimp in their style in September. They didn't do it last night, but so far they've done it today. What a day by David Wright. Only 8 home runs coming into this game. He has 10 now.
Beltran has 1-2 today, and he takes low and inside, a fastball from Madson.
sitting on a fastball. He got it. And now, for the time being, a blown save by Matson.
2 balls and no strikes.
Yeah, regardless of what happens, it's a blown save. So it's 6th of the year, right?
Matson had some chances to save earlier this year because Brad Lidge was on the disabled list with knee problems, and sort of a recurrence of knee problems that he's had over the years. And Charlie Manuel's got to work that gum a little harder and in a somewhat more fierce manner now. Up the middle, and Beltran's got a hit. Well, the Mets are somewhat bookending this game. A big first inning and now a big 9th inning. And they're back on top. And here comes Rich Doobie, the pitching coach. You have to go back to September the 14th of last year. That was against the Atlanta Braves for David Wright's last 2 home run game. Mets have been so power starved. It's only the 3rd time they've had a player go deep twice in a game this season.
I think it's worth bringing up. I mean, both starters, one starter went 7 innings, the other went 6 innings. The first pitching change was made in the bottom of the 7th inning with the score 8-5 in favor of the Phillies. And now here in the 9th inning with 2 out, a 2-run home run by David Wright to give the Mets a lead, 10-9. Unbelievable.
And that's the most important part of this, with 2 out.
Yeah.
2 out, nobody on.
Right.
David Wright with a 2-run homer after Tatis single, and now Beltran back standing. That is a tough day for a Phillies bullpen that is really under the microscope now. David Wright has reason to smile. One ball and no strikes on Francoeur, who's 1 for 4.
Talk about David Wright going up to the plate looking for a fastball and getting it, and I mean, he crushed that ball.
And the 1-0 to Francoeur near shortstop. Rollins puts it away, but this game has a whole different look than it did when we started the 9th inning. Ryan Matson gives up a 2-out single to Tatis, and now Francisco Rodriguez gets a save opportunity because of David Wright's 2-out, 2-run homer, 10-9 New York. And now Francisco Rodriguez will try and turn it into a Mets win. as he is called on to try and pick up his 31st save after the Mets scored twice on David Wright's 2-out 2-run homer in the top of the 9th inning off of Ryan Madson. So Raul Ibanez, Jason Worth, and Pedro Feliz will bat for the Phillies. Now Rodriguez has been dealing with a sore quad lately, and his outings have been interspersed somewhat. Breaking ball for a called strike. Starts him off with a curve, and it's 0-1. Ibanez, 2-run homer and an RBI single in 4 trips. Will it be playable? Wright charging over, but he's going to run out of room. No balls and 2 strikes now to Ibanez. One and 2. We're talking about that series in Boston that the Mets played with the Red Sox earlier this year when Omir Santos hit the home run off of Papelbon. Frankie Rodriguez was carried out of the Mets clubhouse on a stretcher during that series because of severe back pain. The 1-2 on the way, got him. So he came in with hard stuff. A 93-mile-an-hour fastball, and he strikes out Raul Ibanez.
That is a perfect position for that fastball. That ball up and in to tie up Ibanez.
Jason Worth has had a tough afternoon at the plate. Hitless in 4 trips. Breaking ball, 1-0. Now, of course, the Phillies have to get the bullpen hot in case they should tie this game and take it into extra innings. And so Brad Lidge is the guy who's warming up. Not a lot of smiles in that dugout this year. And the breaking ball, and Worth was bailing, and it's a called strike.
That's a good breaking ball right there. When you get a guy who is 6'5" do that, and the pitch is a strike, that's a good breaking ball.
Brad Lidge hoping for a chance. You didn't get one in the top of the 9th inning. Fastball just missed. Did you ever come back with that curveball a second pitch in a row?
Oh, you know. I don't know. He didn't then. He came back with a fastball, but I got to believe that Jason Worth's going to see that breaking ball somewhere in this at bat again.
Not that time, and it's 3-1. Pedro Feliz, right-hand batter, the on-deck hitter. Rodriguez, the 5th pitcher used by New York. Now the 3-1. Worth breaks his back, and Francoeur makes the play. And now the Phillies, just as the Mets were in the top of this inning, are down to their last out.
It has been a tough day for Jason Worth, a very, very good ball player. I mean, that's a 3-1 count where he didn't want to swing. That was almost a check swing. Had made contact with the end of the bat and splintered that bat. Hate to have that excuse me swing happen on 3-1. You can understand that 0-2 or 1-2 when the hitter's in the hole, but not 3-1.
So Feliz, the last chance for the Phillies. There's a breaking ball, but it misses. Phillies a 2-run home run, a double. Florida Marlins probably watching during the rain delay and have liked what they've seen to this point. Another breaking ball, and it's 1-1. Now Phillies are an out away from seeing their lead drop to 5.5, with the Marlins and Nationals waiting out the raindrops. A 1-1, hit hard but foul. And now K-Rod is a strike away. One and two to Pedro Feliz. Just does get a piece. Barely. And so it goes.
Gets a piece of the ball and the catcher, Homer Santos.
$19 runs on 27 hits combined between these teams this afternoon. And K-Rod with a 1-2. And the count even. If Feliz can keep it going, Carlos Ruiz, the catcher, would be the next hitter. And then the pitcher spot. Now K-Rod with a 2-2.
Notice he's hit 2 balls down the third base line. Both have been foul, but that's one of the reasons David Wright is on the line at third base. You have to give K-Rod some protection for that changeup. The changeup's the one that Feliz would pull more than any of the other pitches. That's why Wright's on the third base line.
So the 2-2. Again, just a piece of both the ball and Santos. I think Santos got a bigger piece of that one than the one before.
I think he did. Homer probably saying, Pedro, put the ball in play, will you?
David Wright on that line, trying to guard against the extra base hit with 2 out. And the Mets up a run. The 2-2. Did he go? He did. And the ball game is over. The New York Mets on a 2-run, 2-out 9th inning homer by David Wright have defeated the Philadelphia Phillies 10-9 in a game the Mets led 4-0 before the Phillies came to bat. And then Philadelphia would score 8 straight runs, but Beltran with a 2-run home run, and the Mets able to take something positive on this day from what's been a difficult season for them. And David Wright has something to be happy about tonight.
I would think that David Wright